Hey guys, it's Counting in my review for the latest new film from Netflix, of course being Uncorked. So what Uncorked is essentially about is we focus on our main character, Elijah. He is this man who basically he's worked at this wine business and his family's like local restaurant for a really long time now, and his father really wants him to take over this restaurant. However, Elijah is far more focused on becoming a sommelier of sorts. This is something that he has a real passion for. He wants to become someone that works at a wine business and things like that, and he really clashes with his father and things like that. So basically, he's gone off to pursue this dream, and the rest of the film is seeing if he really can do it, how far he's willing to go to do this, and if he's able to maybe mend fences with his father, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Uncorked overall, I'm going to be honest, I really did not know too much going into this one. There are some Netflix films that I do have quite a lot of knowledge about, but this is really one that just kind of went under my radar. I knew it was coming out, and I really didn't know anything else about it except that I was going to watch it because, hey, I got nothing else to watch in terms of new releases, so might as well watch this one. And look, I will say this about Uncorked. There are a lot of things that I do really like about this movie, but at the end of the day, it's not really a film that is going to fully resonate with me. This is very similar to All the Boys, P.S. I Love You, where there's quite a few things that work in this movie. It's even a film that I do think is generally entertaining at points, but it's just not really a film that, at the end of the day, is really gonna do all that much for me. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast, and I will say right now, that is definitely one of the best things about this movie. I think this film is very well casted. Everyone does a really great job here. Mamoudou Athie, let's talk about him for a second. This is an actor that I have seen so much potential in. I think everything that he's done a really good job. I can't really think of a performance that he's done, at least that I've seen, that I haven't liked from him. I think everything that he's been in, he's done a really good job in, and he does do a really good job carrying this movie. If there's anything that this film proves, is that this guy can definitely carry a movie if you need him to. He's a very talented actor for sure, and you know, he's very charismatic, he's very likable. He definitely does a really good job with showing the passion that Elijah has, you know, for winemaking and things like that. And I just thought overall he was definitely very solid in the role. And I really hope I get to see him do more stuff, because I feel like he's in these relatively small films that not a lot of people really watched. And I hope he gets his hands on a better project, but also a more well-known project, so he can really get out there more and put his name out there, because again, this is an actor I've always seen potential in, but I just don't really ever think he's fully lived up to it. And like I said, I do think he does a really good job carrying this film, and I just hope I get to see more of him, because I think he did a really good job. But easily the big star of this entire movie, and the person that really steals the whole thing, is Courtney Vance, which this is not really that surprising. Courtney Vance is a phenomenal actor, and he does a really good job in this role. You understand where his character is. You know, he's had this plan for his son. He doesn't really understand why he would want to deviate from it, and they do a really good job diving into that character. I thought overall he was probably the best out of everyone. Especially where he ends up going in the third act. I was very impressed by him. And again, you know, Vance is an actor that can pretty much carry anything, and I think he did a really good job. Niecy Nash as well was also really good in this movie as Elijah's mother. I thought she did a really great job here. I was very impressed by her in this film. And again, I like that she's continuing to take on more projects like this. You know, things like When They See Us and now Uncorked. I like where she's headed as an actress. She's definitely going in the right direction for sure. And there's an aspect to her character that I really wasn't expecting. And I thought Nash did a really good job with it for sure. Someone else that I thought was just a big standout throughout was actually McGorry. He plays one of the guys that is working with Elijah at this college, and he is just absolutely hysterical in this film. He had a lot of really funny moments here. He very often, I thought, was the big comedic standout of this movie, and I was really liking what he was doing here overall. Sasha Compere does a really good job. Everyone is really good in this movie in terms of acting. That's definitely not the problem at all when it comes to this film. Now we get to the directing and the writing, which this is where we get to some of the things that I just don't think is quite as good. The directing, I think, is actually probably my biggest issue with this film. The film seems a bit confused with what it really is. There are points where the film is trying to be a straight-up comedy, and it does definitely succeed at that. There are definitely a lot of funny moments throughout this movie, but it much often leans into the drama side of things, and I do think that it does a good job balancing those two tones overall. But I also do feel that it's just not quite as strong as it could have been. I feel like those tones often clashed, and I feel like the movie would have been better if they figured out, okay, is this a serious drama or is this a comedy? It really seemed, and like I said, I understand, like, you know, you can have dramedies, like, I'm perfectly fine with that, but I just didn't feel this film utilized it quite as well as it could have. It didn't really know what it wanted to be in terms of a style, and it definitely feels like Prentice Penny. It definitely felt like he was trying to still figure out his style. I definitely do think he has a future. I just think he needs to kind of realize what works and what doesn't, because at this point I'm just having a hard time trying to figure out what, you know, what separates his style from other directors of his kind, and I didn't really see much that does that here. The writing in this film, I do think, is solid in many areas, especially the main conflict with Elijah and his father. You know, you really do understand why Elijah wants to be a sommelier. You understand how this dream is different from his father's and things like that. And I do think that conflict is very well handled. Elijah is a very likable character in that way. I think a lot of people are going to find themselves relating to him because we've all been at this point in our lives where we have a goal that is not exactly what other people want us to do. And that's something that we want to pursue. And it's different from the path that we were supposed to take in life. And I think the film does do a good job with that. My problem is, beyond that conflict, there just isn't really a lot happening in this film narrative-wise. And that's really, I think, my main thing with this movie, is that after a while, that conflict, it just isn't enough to hold an entire movie. After a while, it just becomes a little bit repetitive in that way. And I just wish there was a little bit more going on narrative-wise than just, you know, Elijah wants to be a sommelier and his father feels differently. I wish there was more going on besides that, and that's not really the case here, and that was a bit disappointing for me. I wish there was more to the story, and I think they definitely could have done some more stuff there. Again, they definitely do a good job showcasing his passion and how much he cares about this, and that's something I really did like, but there does come a point where it's like, okay, but is there anything else going on in this story besides that? And there really isn't. It just was a little too simple for my liking, and it just wasn't engaging me quite as much as I wanted it to. Also, like I said, there is an aspect to Niecy Nash's character that I really wasn't expecting, and I thought was really effective at first. I was actually really liking what they were doing there. My problem is, when things actually get to, you know, the point where, you know, when that storyline actually goes somewhere, it just doesn't feel quite as earned as it should. I didn't feel that sort of punch that the film wanted me to. It goes down a very emotional path with her, but I didn't really feel that emotion. It didn't really hit me in the way that I think the film wanted to, and that was definitely a bit disappointing for me. In fact, when it happened, I was kind of I didn't even realize, like, you know, that it happened as quickly as it did. I just felt it was happening way too quickly, and I think the film really would have benefited if they would have done a little bit more with that story. I think they had something really good there, but they just didn't utilize it that much, and that's, I think, my biggest problem with this movie, is that there are things that really do work. There's another really good subplot with Elijah and his sister, and how his sister is kind of blaming him for a lot of what's going on in the family, and he kind of blames himself for it, but even that isn't really dived into all that much. So again, there are things that work writing-wise, but it's just not quite as strong as it should be. And as a result, the film kind of suffers because of that. And I think that definitely does bring a lot of things down here. The cinematography is definitely really well done. There's a lot of really great shots in this movie, especially when it comes to, you know, the look of the wine and just the restaurant, things like that. This is definitely a movie that is going to make, you know, if you this is definitely a film that I think is going to be very visually appealing in that way, if you are into that kind of business. And I think they did a good job with that. And then the score in this film, I definitely did like, but I do think can become a little too much at points. It does become a little overbearing. And then I'd say my only other real flaw with this film really is the editing. I don't think this film is paced very well. I really don't. There were many points where I just felt that things were happening too quickly or they were happening too slow, and I just did not think the pacing was really there. The editing just felt very choppy to me, and it kept taking me out of the movie, and that's what did bring it down. The actual ending, I get what they're trying to go for. I do actually admire the ending, but I just don't know if it was the right ending for this movie, considering the message that they're trying to send. I get what they're doing, but I just don't know if it was the right way to really end this film, especially considering what had happened before. But overall, Uncorked is a film that I definitely do admire in many aspects. I think that there are some really solid performances. I think there is a good story there. I just don't think it was dived as deep into as I wanted it to. I think there was a little bit more they could have done with this story. There was a little bit more they could have done with these characters. There was a little bit more they could have done with some of the subplots here. And if they were to have done that, I think I probably would have liked this more, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot that this film is doing all that differently. And I don't really have a problem with that usually. You know, there are a lot of films that aren't original in terms of its story, and I don't really have a problem with that. But my problem with this film is that there just isn't a lot that it was doing to impress me. It felt generic in that way. And I think that there could have been a little bit more to it. There's a lot to like about it for sure. And I think it's a perfectly watchable film. And it's definitely a film I think some people are really going to like. It's just, for me, at the end of the day, when really thinking about it, while there are things I enjoy about this film, it's not really a film that I can see sticking with me. It's not really a film that I can see myself still talking about in a few months. And so because of that, I just don't really think this is a film that I liked all that much. So overall, I am going to give Uncorked a C+. But over, guys, in my review of Uncorked, let me know what you guys saw. This is overall, the true thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.